Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is episode 1 of Living Enlightened Every Day. I've been doing videos for a while now, but I thought I would formalize it and create a video podcast. It is available as audio only, so you can look for it at your favorite podcasting outlets, the Living Enlightened podcast. Either way, let's live enlightened, shall we? Today, we are talking about what is living enlightened and, how do we do it every day? If you like this, make sure you hit like and subscribe and, share it with a friend.
Elizabeth Cantey is an author, dynamic speaker, and spiritual coach. She teaches spiritual principles in order to integrate spirit, mind, and body so that you can love your life and live your passion.
Today we're asking the question, what does it mean to live enlightened? What is enlightenment? How do we do it? All those things. And of course, we're going to be exploring these subjects and more in future episodes. But today we're going to talk about, really how this began for me. How this Living Enlightened and, the book came about. The easy answer for me, living enlightened means to love your life and live your passion, right? Every minute of every day, regardless of how life out there is showing up for you. So it means really to be right where you are, doing exactly what you are doing, being with whoever you're with, and seeing the good or seeing God in it. It's that peaceful, easy feeling that stays with you. The first question I am often asked is, where did this idea, living enlightened, come from? So back in 2012, I was co-leading a Course in Miracles workshop. And I had gotten to that point in the workshop where you are asked to remember a spiritual truth or spiritual principle that you're working on for that week, like every hour of every day. But it was a busy time for me. My son was young. I was a single mom, just very busy. I had a lot going on. Sound familiar? So I would, forget. I would forget that every hour I'm supposed to remember this spiritual truth. I would get so caught up in my day that I would forget to check in and remember this spiritual truth or principle. Do you ever forget to remember? I set my alarm on my iPhone for every hour because as busy as I was, I really wanted to, integrate spirit, mind, and body. I wanted to integrate these principles into the busyness and the everyday aspect of my life. And I just wanted to check in and remember to remember. So one of those days I was doing the dishes and the dog was, scratching at my feet because it was past his dinner time and the kids were playing video games, music was blaring, and the people dinner was late as well. I'm sitting in there doing dishes so I can make room to do dinner, and I find myself like this alarm is going off in the background and it's just annoying me. And I remember that it's this alarm to remember the spiritual principle. And it's calling me from across the room to pay attention. And as I interrupt myself, washing the dishes, I walk over to turn off this alarm so that I can know some spiritual truth. And I find myself slightly annoyed and rushed. And I ask myself, why am I doing this? Which, as I look back, it was very interesting. I didn't ask myself, why was I running around like a crazy person trying to get everything done in a rush, hurried, and not having fun doing it all, I'm upset, like asking myself, why am I setting an alarm to remember some spiritual truth or principle that would interrupt me in my busyness so that I could find some peace later on that day? So I ask myself, why am I doing this? And I hear, inside my head, this voice, this soothing knowing, uh, immediately, beautifully, powerfully, and gently, I heard to live enlightened every day. And I still remember that feeling and that moment of stopping and coming to that place within that is peace and joy and love. And it was right there in the midst of the blaring the music and the kids running up and down asking when dinner's going to be ready and the dog scratching at my feet and everything going on. It's all good. It's all God. It's all right there. There was such beauty and joy and energy and love in this chaos in my kitchen in that moment, but I was missing it, because I was in a hurry to get it done, to get to the next thing, to finish so that I could relax, meditate, have some peace in some future moment. But right there, right then in that moment, in that loud, busy gaming, music blaring, dog scratching, dinner late again moment, there was God. There was good, there was love, there was peace, there was joy. I didn't have to wait for it. I didn't have to be quiet. I didn't have to be anything than what I was and do anything other than what I was doing in that moment. It was right there. It was right now. So, of course, I already knew that we don't have to wait for a time for meditation or church on Sunday. We can experience life and peace and love and joy every day, regardless of how life is showing up, the dog barking, music blaring, trash that needs to be taken out, appointments that need to be made, bills that need to be paid. The fullness of life is available to us in any moment that we just wake up to it. So instead of contracting or shrinking into the activity of our lives, instead of, smushing our focus smaller and smaller and smaller into doing these tasks, we can actually keep doing just what we're doing and allow ourselves to, expand into the moment, into the beauty, into the joy, and experience that beauty in chaos, that love in the energy of whatever's going on. We're no longer waiting for the time that we finish whatever we're doing. So that was a profound change in my life. And I wrote down, oh, I wish I'd brought it. I wrote down to live enlightened every day, because actually the emphasis was almost more on every day. And what it meant to me at the time was every moment, not waiting for the perfect moment, but every moment. And I wrote it down and I stuck it on the cabinet and I still have it. So that was live enlightened every day. And another question I get all the time is, well, what does it mean to live enlightened? And we are going to be exploring this all through these uh, podcasts. But just to start, I've already touched on it a little bit, but being right where you are, doing exactly what you're doing, being with whoever you are with, and seeing that love, that peace, and that joy, the beauty in all of it, seeing God right where you are, because it's right there. It's always right here. So it's always right here, in whatever we're doing. We sense this and feel this when we're no longer uh, looking for that outside of us in our relationships, in the situations, in the events. Um, when we stop looking for those things to make us happy or to bring us peace, instead we sense and we know that that peace is within us, the peace that passes all understanding. That's our true nature. And we can feel it under any circumstance. That's why we can be doing anything. We can be with anyone and still know peace or love or joy or that quality of spirit that is available to us right then, which is right now. Some people don't think this is easy to do. And I get it, right? That situation I described, those hectic moments in our days or sometimes weeks, it seems like a task. Like for me that day when I heard the alarm going off, I was like, one more thing to do, go turn off the alarm and be spiritual. But it's it's so worth it, right? To be at peace all the time, no matter what. As I said, there have been many, many, many times, many years, in fact, decades, where everything that I felt was kind of dictated by the conditions in my life. And that's how most of us are brought into this world. Most of our parents, teachers, coaches, and others reinforce this belief that we have to keep responding and reacting to everything that's going on out there. And as difficult as it is to kind of retrain the body and the mind, the thoughts, to turn within and to see and know and experience the truth of our being, which is peace and love and joy, it's so much more difficult to be subject to the outside conditioning of the world. We're always subject to what everyone else is doing or thinking or saying, or what's on the news or what's in social media. It's like we're like a soccer ball being kicked about, reacting to everything around us instead of just turning within, being still, and knowing the peace that is always available. And once we're in alignment with our true being, our true nature. It feels like we can, just breathe. Like we just walked into a sauna. Like your whole body just relaxes, and we think, "Oh, this is peace. This is relaxing. This is my mind relaxing its focus on and attention on everything out there. And instead I'm just resting. I'm just resting in here, in myself. Self with a capital S." Every moment that we take during the day in which we become aware, sometimes it's being aware of the breath, sometimes it's being aware of just silence or stillness. Of course, sometimes it's in nature, that beauty of a flower blooming, or the dog right in front of us, or the children laughing. It's just that, an enlightened moment. And that's all there is to it. That's the shocking truth about enlightenment. It's revealing our true nature and allowing that to shine through every experience, every relationship, every situation, every activity. We'll talk a lot more about this, I'm sure. So, next common question I get often is, what do the enlightened know or experience? Well, when we understand our true nature, I've already touched on it a few times, the essential essence of our being, that which can never be taken away, it's within us, it's who we are, then we experience that joy and that peace and the flow of life that I just talked about. We're going to talk about how we come to understand our true nature in the next few episodes. But for now, I just want to say that the enlightened experience a great sense of peace or joy or clarity or flow. We can call it ease or grace. It can have a different quality or a different name depending on our personality, right? But I do want to clarify something. Many of us hear about the exotic experience or the terms in enlightenment or awakening, like Sahaj Samadhi or Nirvana, which are translated as bliss, or what Jesus spoke about as the peace that passes all understanding. And there are many terms from mystic traditions. And the important thing to understand is that if someone is having sort of an exotic or an extreme experience of bliss or ecstasy, usually in a meditation or something, those are wonderful moments pointing us to just the beauty and the joy and the bliss that is within. But that isn't enlightenment. It's not enlightenment, because enlightenment is our true nature, and our true nature never comes and goes. The truth doesn't ebb and flow. It isn't something that shows up in a moment and then disappears. The truth is always there, and it is usually like our thoughts, our past conditioning, our attachment to the way things were or what we want it to be, that obscures this truth. So we can think of it as like our thoughts or our needs, the desires, the wanting, the judgments, the attachments, reactions, resisting. All of those are like clouds that are blocking this eternal sun that is our nature, the truth of our being, which is love and peace and joy, clarity, flow, ease, grace. And so when we allow those clouds to dissipate, when we rest in the nature of our being, that sun, that light, that peace, love, and joy penetrates through into those same situations, the same circumstances, the same relationships that we've had. It's all still there, but it's our true nature shining through and into and onto and in all of these situations. So there is a peace, a calm, a joy. And the peace that Jesus spoke about, it's not exotic or hard to understand. It seems rare until until we do understand. Those enlightened moments are those shifts in perception are fun, they're awesome and amazing, and they are a remembrance of what is true. And when we have those peak experiences, or I call them Rocky Mountain highs, thank you, John Denver, we're reminded that that peace is more true than the anxiety that I feel in certain situations in my life. Right? So it's a remembrance or a reminder, but they are not the shifts into our actual nature and the ego structure, I guess we could say. But those shifts aren't shifts in the structure of our overall perception. They're not that lasting shift into a perception. And after these extreme moments of bliss or joy or whatever that is, everything kind of goes back to normal. We could say, the ego, the thoughts, and sometimes it can even lead us into wanting. I want to get back there. I need to get back to that peaceful moment or that joy that I just had. And again, we're not in the present moment. Then we've kind of lost ourselves. When we look for peace or joy or harmony in our outside circumstances, when we look for love to come from our relationships, or when we look for fulfillment to come from our job, or when we look for peace after we've worked hard all day, it's kind of hard to come by in the outside circumstances of our lives because it's passing. Those things are always changing. What is ever the same is the truth of our being, our nature, who and what we are, the peace that is within, the joy and the love that we actually are. That is never changing. And that is always satisfying. And we all experience this. I'm going to challenge you. Well, most of us. I'm going to say almost everyone will experience this at least once or twice a day. Like, for instance, right before you go to sleep at night. Sometimes there's that moment where you realize you've done everything you can for the day, and you just let your mind, you just let go of thinking about what's next. Have you ever had those moments? You just let your body relax into the bed. Your head just sink completely into the pillow, and you just experience peace. A smile maybe floats onto your face. It's like, and just for a moment, it's like there's no thought. There's the peace that passes understanding. It's not because you did something exceptional. It's not because something amazing happened. It's just whoosh, sinking in to peace. The mind relaxes. The body relaxes. Spirit shines through. That is the peace and the joy of enlightenment. It's so average. It's so normal that we discount it. We overlook it. But that's because for many of us, this peace is very, very short-lived, because suddenly the mind will jump in that circumstance. The mind jumps in. Did I forget to lock the door? Did I take the dog out? Did I take the trash out? Or the raccoon's going to get into the trash again, and I'm going to be picking up trash for 4 hours in the morning? It's the mind just spinning and running amok, and the neck tenses and the body tosses, and we've just lost that simple, simple sense of peace. That peace that I just described, let's be clear and honest, that isn't an exotic peace, but it is an incredible peace. That moment that your body, your mind relaxes and spirit just shines. And you feel for a moment, for me, it's like floating, or just flow, ease, grace. It's not foreign. It's not exotic. It's not even hard to come by. In fact, it's very natural. We're simply at peace because there's no thought disturbing our presence. Yeah, we're not thinking. Eckhart Tolle has said that his greatest gift to himself has been that he can turn off his thinking mind whenever he wants. That's peace, not thinking. That joy isn't exotic. It's joy because the mind isn't creating suffering. The mind isn't wanting, needing, desiring. The mind has just stopped. stopped complaining. It stopped the negativity. It's such a simple joy when you watch the sunrise and there's no thought. It's like, wow. I mean, it is. Come on, it's mind blowing. You know that feeling, right? Rocky Mountain High, staring into a fire, child's face, or puppies playing. Something about it. We are just at one, mind, body, and spirit shining through it all. And we'll talk a lot more about this. And I talk about it in my book, Living Enlightened, the joy of integrating spirit, mind, and body. And there's another moment. Usually, most people have it right when they wake up in the morning, when the mind hasn't quite latched on to everything that we need to do for the day. It's that moment where you are breathing. Maybe there's light streaming in, or maybe there's a familiar sound, or maybe it's just the sound of your own breathing. But before the mind kicks in, it's, if you've programmed the coffee machine, you're smelling that coffee and you just think, life is good. Again, nothing exotic, but there's nothing better than that moment of joy or peace. There's this joyful anticipation for the next breath, right? So not exotic, not unusual, but so normal, in fact, that we overlook it. And most of us have those moments all throughout the day. After we complete a task, after we load up the car to take the kids to the beach, whatever it is, there's that moment of, so simple. We can do it all the time. And that's what we call living enlightened. So that brings me to another question. How do you live enlightened every day? What do you do to live enlightened every day? What practices do you do? So we get this all the time. And exploring spirituality with an open mind led me to the practice of meditation. Bringing the practice of meditation into every aspect of my life changed my life completely. It creates, for me, meditation in its many forms. We'll definitely be exploring that because people think of meditation as very specific. Some people think it's a mantra meditation, or it's a chanting, or it's a this, or it's a walking meditation. There's so many. It's beautiful that there's so many meditations, and it's what suits our self. What suits us is a meditation, but it causes, I believe, that shift in perspective. And if you think about it, a shift in perspective is like this. I'm not talking about anything crazy here. If I'm looking here, this is what I see. This is what is in my view right in front of me. But if I shift my perspective, all that is like this. Oh, look at that. Look what's over there. We see differently, turning our attention or our awareness just slightly. Everything changes. That's what meditation is for me. It's like we look in the mirror and we think, oh, I am this. This is what I am. And then you turn your attention just slightly inward and you go, oh, I am this. I am eternal. I am love. I am joy. I'm peace. I had no beginning and no end. There's one. That's all that there is. That is an incredible shift. And yes, I have a personality. And yes, other people perceive me as looking like this, right? All of it, spirit, mind, body. It's wonderful. It's a profound shift, crazy, wild, and wonderful. But it's not a change. I didn't change who I am. This self, capital S, of who I am has always been this. And I didn't change who I was. I just see who I am wholly. I see my essential nature, that which can never be taken away, that which doesn't come and go like the many thoughts that come and go, like the many situations that come and go in my life, like the years that come and go. I am not my body. I am not my sensations. I am not my thoughts. And then we get to explore, well, what am I? What am I then? What is it that has been me since I can remember? Since I've ever said, I am. Since I've been aware of I am. What is that? So we get to explore that. And one of my favorite ways of exploring that is, as I said, meditation. We never need to add one thing to us, to who we are, but we may need to let some things go. Some thoughts about who we are, some thoughts about who they are, thoughts about what's going on, ideas, beliefs. Need to let go of what is no longer serving us. And, it took me a while to get that. I have done all kinds of meditations, music meditations, guided meditations, walking meditations, swimming meditations, walking on fire, um, chanting, drumming, kirtan kriya, sudarshan kriya, you name it, I've done it. Yoga, gotta love yoga. I've done classes and workshops and retreats, silent retreats, music retreats, busy retreats, creative retreats, sitting retreats. I have loved it all. Honestly, every minute of it. Not one regret. Only a deep love for my experiences and my teachers and friends that I've met along the way. And yet there is an easier path. And I do write about it in my book, Living Enlightened, the joy of integrating spirit, mind, and body. It doesn't have to take as long as it took me. And so then, of course, I get, well, tell us about your upcoming book. Well, I wrote this book, Living Enlightened. I wrote it for my son, Max, who has been brought up with these teachings and these principles, spiritual teachings, spiritual principles. And he went through a really rough time in high school and some difficult experiences, and was diagnosed with severe depression, with psychotic tendencies. Words like bipolar and schizophrenia and different things we went through a lot. Suicidal ideations, hospitalizations, residential treatment facilities, medication after medication, psychiatrists, psychology, all kinds of things. And living enlightened while all that is going on with the one you love the most, your child. It grounds you into what is real, this essential truth, this essential nature. And yet, if it also grounded me and him in body and mind, in time and space, and exactly what we needed to do, where we were, and what was happening. There was an intense integration of spirit, mind, and body. And I decided to write this book in a moment where I thought, if there was only one thing that I wanted him to read, if there was only one thing that he would read, if there was only one thing that he would look at and maybe understand, it was the principles written in this book. It was how I came to be able to live the principles, to be able to love my life regardless of 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 anything that is going on. That's how I know that this is more real. The truth of our being, the love, the peace, the joy that is within is more real than anything that we're experiencing temporarily. And we can connect with anyone and everyone because of this. There is one life, we are sharing it. There is one reality, we are living it. There is one thing that is always going on. We call it God, we call it life, we call it peace, love, joy, infinite possibilities. So we can call it whatever we want. It's always available. And so I wrote this book for him. And it's simple. It's a path that I took to reveal this truth of my being, to let go of the thoughts that I had, the beliefs, which are just thoughts that you think over and over again, the beliefs that I had held to be true, the ideas that I had kind of latched onto, the past conditioning that were my parents' beliefs or my parents' parents' beliefs, and how those were broken down in my life. And I could just let them go, like shedding my skin, like dropping my cloak, dropping something I do not need anymore. And what is revealed is this light, this lightness of being that shines through, the most extreme of circumstances. And we'll talk about those. We'll talk about, I've been diagnosed with cancer twice. We'll talk about overcoming and things like that in future episodes. But for now, we'll just leave it with that's why I wrote the book for my son. And he is so happy and so healthy right now. And I know that these principles have helped him tremendously. He is such a creative being, living his life, loving his life, and living his passion. He's a sophomore in college now. And yeah, so I think it would help anyone. If it could help him, it can help anyone. If it helped me, it's possible for anyone to live enlightened every day, regardless of how life is showing up. And so I'm going to invite you now with this to ask me questions. What does living enlightened mean to you? And what do you want to know about living enlightened? And what's the hardest part for you living enlightened? I told you about just the chaos of some days, and we haven't gotten into it, but we'll talk about living under long periods of chronic stress and how that worked and what I did during those times. You can bet meditation was very high on my list, and there were other things too. Where are you on this path of awakening? And what's your favorite part of living enlightened? So I would just love to hear from you, and share with you? What do you want to explore in future episodes? So I hope I hear from you soon. You can check out my website. It's elizabethcantey.com. And you can check out my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. It's available on Amazon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Elizabeth Cantey, and this is Living Enlightened every day. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. And if you found it helpful, go ahead and share it with a friend. Maybe they're interested in living enlightened every day. Maybe they're interested in loving their life, living their passion. I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and leave a comment or review, and check out my website, elizabethcantey.com. There's a lot of good stuff there. Join me every week for a new insight into how we can love our life and live our passion. We'll be doing interviews with other authors and writers, musicians, people who are on the path and can share some enlightenment with you. Just remember to laugh, love, and live enlightened every day.
Elizabeth Cantey's new book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body, is available on Amazon now.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Cantey. Integrating your spirit, mind, and body. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.